if you could give us a minute. Very good evening and warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Khushbu and I'm going to be your host for this evening. Eduscala is one of the leading providers of educational services and consultation. I request our trustee, Mrs. Lata Mishra, to kindly say a few words about the brand. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, Khushbu. Good evening, one and all present in this session. A very warm welcome to all of you. It gives me a very wonderful feeling to be associated with this. Not only because of the kind of enthusiasm the collaborators and the experts and the leaders are showing. The way the string of seminars are being conducted, the webinars are being conducted, and the way experts are in various platforms bringing together all the necessary topics in today's age with respect to digitization or be it respect to say parenting, the kind of session we have today. I guess it's the enthusiasm that stems from the passion towards education that all of you have, which is making it such a big success. So, a warm welcome to all of you. I hope you have a great evening, Mr. Eminent personality, and I'm sure he will throw a lot of light in this very important subject during a time like this. Thangadurai sir, all of you, all the very best. Thank you. Over to you, Khushbu.
Thank you, ma'am. I would also like to welcome Dr. G. Thangadurai, Dr. Director and Principal of Presidency Group of Schools, Bangalore. Sir is a distinguished educationist, a seasoned administrator, a prolific writer, eloquent speaker, and a commendable teacher who is also a proud recipient of the prestigious National Award for his contribution in the field of education from the former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I request you to kindly address the gathering, sir.
Close. Good evening. Thank
Good
you,
evening.
Lata. Yeah, thank you, Lata, and thank you, Kushbu. It's wonderful to be back again in the webinar. We had about a half a dozen webinar on various topics, and today we have a very eminent personality in the field of child psychiatry and childcare who has devoted his life. It's a great pleasure to have him with us. Kushbu will give more introduction about him. I also welcome quite a good number of participants who have registered. Going by the list, I find predominantly parents are there. Welcome, parents. And I also see participants from Delhi, Gujarat, from Reliance School, Jamnagar. We have schools across Karnataka. I'm really happy the Loot School, Mangalore, is there every time with us. Thank you, Father Robert, for encouraging the teachers and the parents to join us. We have participants from Mumbai, Odisha, and also from Oman, Middle East. Thank you, the principal of Indian School Al Gubra, Mrs. Papri Ghosh, for encouraging participants from, I hope they will join if they haven't joined, but they have registered. We have a huge number from Tamil Nadu, and among them I could see Omega International School participating quite continuously, uh, and they are with us in most of the webinars. We have participants from UP as well, Durgapur Public Institution, West Bengal, and uh, quite a good number of teachers also have joined. Presumably, they are also parents. And I welcome all the participants. I'm sure today's topic would be very, very interesting. As Lata said, the trust established by her is mainly focusing on to see how we could reach out to the society. It is more of a philanthropic approach to supporting and mentoring teachers, basically, but then parents are also very important stakeholders and collaboration. They collaborate with us in all fields in terms of school education. At a time when COVID-19 struck us by a storm, we all appreciate the way the teachers swung into action and met the challenge and reached a certain level of proficiency on the online platform. Teachers as a remote teacher, we have our students as a remote learner. The normal classroom where there was an eye contact, physical interaction is absolutely missing nowadays. We are working very hard how to bridge the gap, how to keep the students engaged. It's very difficult. We know how difficult it is to keep the students engaged in classes as well. Now it is the role of the parents to take care of their own children. Now our students have become under the care of the parents, and they are facing quite a lot of challenge, which I understand, going by the interactions that we had in various parents teachers meeting. And I think this is one of the area that we want to focus today, how parenting can be done during the pandemic situation. Uh, Mr. Khalil Gibran, he had remarked about parenting and said that parenting is a privilege. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They came through you, but not from you. And though they are with you at present on this online platform, yet they belong not to you, They are connected with the teachers remotely, but then you are their guardian and then you are looking after them at the other side. It's quite challenging, I do understand, where parents, both of them are working and they are also working from home. Students, their children are working home study or homeschooling from home.
Yes, sir.
There could be a, thank you. There could be a lot of challenges, and I think here is where Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri, who has done a lot of webinars on parenting, and he has analyzed various situations, you will have a very, very, very in depth interaction and enlightenment on how parenting can be done during the pandemic situation. More than anything else, I feel that your questions are very important because this is a time when you can ask and clarify or find a solution, not a solution, but how to address some issues with regard to your children when they are in your custody, in your care. So the question answer session is very important. But one thing at home, as from my side as a principal of a school, is that if you connect them to culture, what I always believe, cultural equity, I think that would give them some kind of inner discipline and probably that culture, the family bonding, the care for one another at home, especially when all of you are working, parents are working from home, children are studying from home. So, some kind of a cultural equity has to be developed. Well, I do not want to take much time. This webinar on parenting is a work in progress. That is all I can say. It's not the ultimate solution, the webinar. And probably we will come back because we, in any kind of an educational collaboration, teachers, students, and parents, we all collaborate together. And in that respect, I think this webinar is only a progressive. We will have a few more to see how we could have a continuous interaction with the parents, to see how they could reinforce and help us in the process of learning, and at the same time, how they could comfort themselves in a challenging situation as they are in. This will never get over. At the same time, I believe that no child wants a pedantic parent who knows all the awareness. I think a thinking child desires a thinking parents, and I think it's time for us to think about how to find solutions or address challenges during the pandemic situation. A teacher can never truly teach unless he is still learning himself. This is Rabindranath Tagore's quote. A teacher can never truly teach unless he is still learning himself or herself. A lamp can never light another lamp unless it continues to burn its own flame. Similarly, I think the teachers and the parents need to burn our flame,
Okay, sir.
interest of our children. And Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri has been conducting
Yes.
parenting Pathshala series. I hope you will also get into that series where he continuously conducts parenting Pathshala services. And I'm very, very thankful to him that with such a busy man, a very leading psychiatrist, child psychiatrist, and professor of Nimans, sparing his valuable time to be with us. And I think to be good to parents, we need to continue to burn, as Rabindranath Tagore said. And here is where Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri would enlighten us and see how the light keeps burning, light of learning from a remote teacher to a remote um, learner. And this parenting Pathshala series is something is there on the YouTube. I think the National Institute and Integrated Resources for Child Protection under the Department of Child and Adolescent Psychology. It is supported by Women and Child Development, Government of India, and Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri is doing a yeoman service, uh, parenting, conducting Pathshala service. So I would soon welcome Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri to take over this online platform. And before that, I request Khushbu, our host, to give a brief introduction about our eminent speaker.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your warm welcome and those inspiring words. Now I'm proud to introduce our guest speaker for today, Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri. As already said, sir is an eminent personality, a very powerful one. Dr. Shekhar is a graduate from Maulana Azad Medical College, Delhi, and a postgraduate from psychiatry from National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, which is NIMHANS, Bangalore. He is also currently the professor and head Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, NIMHANS, Bangalore. Besides working with child and adolescent mental health, including developmental disabilities, Sir is also actively involved in areas of gender, violence, trauma, abuse, children in difficult circumstances, juvenile justice, experiential methodologies, school programs, teacher training in life skills education, and many more. We are extremely proud to have you with us today, sir, and I welcome you with a whole heart. And I'm sure the parents will definitely benefit from today's session. And just before we begin, and just before I hand over the platform to Dr. Shekhar, I would like to inform the parents that if you have any questions, I would request you to kindly put it in the chat box and make sure that it is viewable for everyone so that we all can get the knowledge of what you're asking. And I shall put forth your questions and queries at the end of the session. I would also request the participants to kindly keep themselves muted throughout the session until and unless asked to speak or discuss something. Over to you, sir, and a very warm welcome again.
थैंक यू वेरी मच खुशबू सबको मेरा नमस्कार और
Namaskar.
और मेरे प्रिय मित्र थंगदुरै साहब को मेरा सादर प्रणाम बहुत ही जाने माने एजुकेशन के एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर और प्रैक्टिशनर हैं मैं देख रहा हूं साथियों कि आज के प्रोग्राम में भारत के चारों कोने से लोग शामिल हैं बच्चे भी शामिल हैं और चूंकि 14 नवंबर को बाल दिवस है ये दिवाली भी आने वाला है सब बच्चों को मेरा प्रणाम बचपन and parenting. Let's try and combine these two constructs and really look at parenting in the context of this lockdown and in the context of the kind of concerns that Thangadurai Sahib has raised. कुछ मुद्दे हैं जो मैं आपके सामने स्क्रीन शेयर में रखने वाला हूं लेकिन उससे पहले चूंकि यहाँ बच्चे भी मौजूद हैं நிறைய பசங்க இங்க இருக்காங்க தங்குதுரை சொல்ற மாதிரி தமிழ்நாட்டிலேருந்து சில ஸ்கூல் இருக்கு ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದಷ್ಟು ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಜನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ In the words of the mellifluous voice of Jagjit Singh many years ago, when he sang, ये दौलत भी ले लो, ये शोहरत भी ले लो, भले छीन लो मुझसे मेरी जवानी, मगर मुझको लौटा दो बचपन का सावन, वो कागज की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी, वो कागज की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी. ये दौलत भी ले लो, ये शोहरत भी ले लो. You can take away my wealth, you can take away my reputation. भले छीन लो मुझसे मेरी जवानी, you can take away from me my youth. मगर मुझको लौटा दो वो बचपन का सावन. Return to me the spring of childhood. वो कागज की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी. The paper boat that I used to float in the puddles made of the rain. Let's examine what has happened in COVID. Loss of routine, loss of structure, loss of predictability, loss of educational opportunities, loss of social spaces, loss of peer interaction, and loss of play. If children cannot go out into the world, how do you bring the world back into the family? And this is where the challenges of parenting have really taken on a new dimension, a new direction. And how, as civil society, as people who are concerned about children, how do we bring this back into the lives of children? I did some work earlier, and I'd like to take about 10-15 minutes now to share some stuff, and then I would like to address children as well. May I request my host to allow me to screen share, because my part screen sharing is still disabled. If the tech team there could allow me to present my slide share.
I'm so sorry for that, sir. I've made you the co-host.
Thank you very much. So, parenting in the current COVID reality and understanding and addressing of parental concerns. Now, what we did was that we spoke to, forget the numbers here, don't look at the numbers. There were three major themes that emerged as how do we engage young children in a homebound situation? How do we parent young children? How do we handle siblings? Where engaging young children are concerned, what are the challenges in establishing a routine? What are the challenges in providing age appropriate engagement? And how do I help my child cope with prolonged indoor environment? Remember, I said, दिनचर्या का खोना, पूर्व अनुमान और भविष्यवाणी हम नहीं कर पाते हैं, और जो बाहर नहीं, और हमारे जीवन से जो खेल चला गया है, और मित्रों के साथ, मित्रगण के साथ जुड़े हुए रहना. Rudolf Steiner, a philosopher who spoke about the theory of anthroposophy, art, creativity, music, nature. कैसे छोटे बच्चों के लिए you establish a routine at home, which is not just about studies. It's also about rediscovering a new routine. जैसे जगजीत सिंह के गाने में है, बचपन के बारे में क्या याद है? You speak to any adult, what do you remember about your childhood? You will remember that which is a stable memory. And a memory is something that either happened very often and was unforgettable, or it happened once, but it was so happy that you could not forget it. Which is why people say, you know what I remember about my childhood? I remember that there used to be 100-year-old bell in my house, and it was my job to ring it during mealtime, and we would all gather, and there was so much of laughter and discussion. And now at the age of 35, that bell is in my house. Or do you know what I remember about my childhood? I remember that We had a tradition in my family that every week we would go to the nearby orphanage and do some work, and that's where I got my inspiration. वहां से मुझे प्रेरणा मिली सोशल वर्क करने की, क्योंकि हमारी फैमिली में ये संस्कृति थी बाजू के अनाथ आश्रम में जाके हफ्ते में एक बार कुछ सेवा करूं। तो छोटे बच्चे जो हैं उनको हाउस बाउंड सिचुएशन में, लॉकडाउन के सिचुएशन में अब भी बाहर जाना इतना नहीं है क्योंकि वैक्सीन अभी तक आया नहीं है। तो छोटे बच्चों के लिए अगर वो बाहर नहीं जा सकते हैं तो प्रकृति को आप घर में कैसे ला सकते हैं? एंथ्रोपोसॉफी, छोटा सा गमला लीजिए, it has sand, it has mud in it, throw a couple of mustard or coriander seeds, allow the child to nurture it. It germinates in 3 days. My friend Thangadurai in this webinar series has presented many programs on science, simple science experiments that you can do at home. And when a child sees that the coriander seeds have germinated and वो धनिए के पत्ते आते हैं और उसी पत्ते को आप रसोई में यूज करते हैं तो कितना उनको हर्ष और उल्लास होगा, because there are so many issues involved here. It's about nurturing, it's about caring, it's about germination, it's about application, and so many issues of learning are taking place because you're creating opportunities of learning which are not traditional ways of. And this is how you help them cope with prolonged indoor environment. How do you bring the sea and the beach back to the family? Very simple. Put 2 chairs together. Put a curtain on top of that. बच्चे आप ये सब सुन लीजिए. 2 कुर्सियों को डालिए, उसके ऊपर एक बेडशीट डालिए, एक छोटे से लैंप पे थोड़ा लाल या नीले रंग का कागज डाल दीजिए, सो नीला रंग रहेगा. थोड़ा सा हल्का सा जैसे बीच में म्यूजिक बजता है वो बजाइए, ऑरेंज जूस या नींबू पानी बनाइए, तकिए को डाल के सब लोग लेटिए, ऐसा लगेगा कि आप बीच में हैं, समुद्र के तट में हैं. तो इस तरह की एक्टिविटीज अगर आप घर में करेंगे, या शैडो प्ले, एक सफेद बेडशीट डाल दिया, उसके पीछे एक लैंप डाल दिया और वहां आके आप अलग अलग तरीके के, जिन्हों जैसे एनिमल्स का ये कर रहे हैं या हाथ का ये कर रहे हैं, तो इससे the imagination and the creativity of the children in the lockdown situation. Now, coming to more specific issues of parenting in young children, which is how do you handle temper tantrums? What is positive parenting? What is quality time? What is multiple parenting? How do you use instructions? Are there increased expectations from young children? Do you have protected time? How do you handle sibling rivalry? There is an issue, my friends, that I would like to share with you, and I'd like all of you to understand the significance of this. Unfortunately, parents' relationship with children is not constructed on a culture of conversations. It is constructed on a culture of instruction, expectation, and obedience. बड़ों का रिश्ता बच्चों के साथ जो है उसका आधार आदेश, उपदेश और अपेक्षा, वार्तालाप की संस्कृति नहीं है. तो क्वालिटी टाइम का मतलब क्या है कि अपने बच्चे के व्यक्तित्व को, जो योर चाइल्ड नॉट एज अ चाइल्ड, नॉट एज अ स्टूडेंट, बट एज अ पर्सन, एज अ सिटीजन. तो घर में समान अधिकारी परंपरा, egalitarian culture of opinion sharing, of experience sharing, that any discussion is all right in this family. Allow them to express their concerns and anxieties and respond to them truthfully and honestly as much as you know. If you don't, tell them, I'm happy you asked me this question. Don't know the answer immediately, but let me read a little bit about it. Let me speak to people who know about it and I'll get back to you. But this brings me to a very important issue here. And if you look at the last part of the different developmental ages, ये संभव है कि यहां कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं who have children with special needs. Now, these children will need even more stimulation. And this is where the use of hand stimulation, the use of the body, all the five senses and all the domains of child development, physical, social, emotional, cognitive, and speech and language, need to be stimulated. The, so when you come to children with developmental disorders, particularly because they have lack of access to therapy and continuity of care, what kind of home-based interventions can you do? And this is where I have taken the liberty to put on chat the website, which is nimhanschildproject.in, and the YouTube resource that Thangadurai Sahab referred to, जिसमें पेरेंटिंग पाठशाला के 10 सेशंस हैं और हमने इस महीने नवंबर के महीने क्योंकि ये बाल दिवस का महीना है we are putting out a program called कहानियां और कल्पनाएं in 9 languages कन्नड़ा तमिल मलयालम हिंदी इंग्लिश मराठी गुजराती नागामीज एंड पंजाबी ये छोटी छोटी कहानियां हैं जो with illustrations we read out. So this is the kind of intervention you can do at home where you take illustrations, you take pictures, and you work on themes, different kinds of themes, so that their knowledge base increases, their idea of emotions. Like the first story that we put out was called Karun's story. And the story is very simple. कुछ बच्चे क्लास में थे अब और कल स्कूल बंद होने वाला था और कल स्कूल का समारोह है और कि गीता क्लास में फर्स्ट आएगी संतोष को गणित का प्राइज मिलेगा जॉन को गाने का प्राइज मिलेगा और लोगों ने कहा करुण को ओ करुण को क्या करुण को तो मोटापा का प्राइज मिलेगा और सबसे बुद्धू होने का प्राइज मिलेगा और करुण थोड़ा उदास हुआ और वो बाहर गया थोड़ी देर के लिए और सोचने लगा कि लोग मेरा हंसी मजाक क्यों उड़ाते हैं व्हाई डू पीपल मेक फन ऑफ मी लाइक दिस एंड देन एज ही वाज गोइंग टू हिज होम अ न्यू गर्ल कॉल्ड अनीता वाज राइडिंग हर साइकिल and she was riding very fast and suddenly she fell down and Karun went to help her and found that she had scraped her knee so he took her home and there was a lot of sound there और अनीता ने पूछा कि तुम्हारे घर में बहुत लोग हैं are there many people at home he said no there's only my mom and dad मम्मी डैडी हैं तो ये साउंड क्या है तो फिर जाती है तो there are many animals there एक डॉग है एक कुत्ता एक बिल्ली एक pigeon एक squirrel then Karun's mother, who's bandaging Anita, says, all orphan animals and hurt animals, Karun brings home and looks after them. Anita goes back next day to school and tells everyone, you know, how kind Karun is, what he does. And the whole thing spread in the school. So next day when the prize distribution ceremony came, the principal said, we have a special prize today. We have a prize for the kindest boy in class. क्लास में सबसे दयालु बच्चे का ये पुरस्कार करुण को जाता है और सब ताली बजाते हैं 15 साल के बाद करुण opens an animal shelter. Now this is the kind of story, friends, that you can create to really handle the issues that occur in COVID. Let your children know more about you. 5 things about mommy and daddy that you never knew. 3 new things that the family can do together. The other issue that you speak about is managing work-life balance during COVID and the parental role strain and engaging children during working hours. And this is where time management becomes quite important. Then we come to somewhat more deeper issues. Concerns related to screen time क्योंकि सब ऑनलाइन हो चुका है और बाल विकास में स्क्रीन टाइम का प्रभाव क्या है Are we using screen time as a pacifier? How do we balance online virtual learning with inappropriate uh, accessing of material on the screen? The recommendation for preschoolers, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, is not more than 1 to 2 hours of screen time, and that too not continuously. Because the average attention span of a 3 or a 4-year-old is only about 15, 20 minutes, so it must be divided. There is also a difference between processed screen viewing and unprocessed screen viewing. Unprocessed means बच्चा स्क्रीन के सामने बैठा है, कुछ देख रहा है, पता नहीं क्या समझ रहा है. Process means you're also sitting and you're saying, "Arey, wo dekho gir gaya. Oh, he's drinking a glass of water." So you're converting that visual image into information, information into knowledge, and knowledge into application. That's the kind of approach
ನಾನು
that.
ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಇದು ಹಸಿಟ್ ತರಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ಲ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿ ನಾಳೆ ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ನಾಳೆ ನಾಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು
And as people are discussing about tomorrow's breakfast, ಉಪ್ಪಿಟ್ಟು ಕೊಡಿ ಮಾ, ಉಪ್ಪಿಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿ ನಾಳೆ, ಅಥವಾ ರವಾ ಇಡ್ಲಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ವಿಗ್ಗಿ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾಷ್ಟಾನಲ್ಲಿ ತರಿಸ್ಬೋದು, ಅದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ ಅನ್ಸತ್ತೆ. ಅಥವಾ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ನಾಷ್ಟಾ ಮಾಡನ್ನ, ಅವಲಕ್ಕಿ, ಅವರು ಆಲೂಗಡ್ಡೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸಿಪ್ಪೆ ತೆಗೆದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದು ನೀವು ಆಲೂಗಡ್ಡೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಶೇಂಗಾ ಹಾಕಿ ಅವಲಕ್ಕಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Parenting and adolescence, particularly with online issues and the concerns about inappropriate viewing or smartphone use, and what kind of, so we need to have a media plan. It's a democratic negotiation. The issue, dear parents, that you also need to understand is that your concern about pandemic, screen time, adolescence, and parenting must come from a legitimate source. Let me explain what this means. If your adolescent is looking at the screen for 6 hours continuously, but he's otherwise doing well, he's in contact with the extended family, what is the source of the worry? Is it just an ideological problem you have that he should not be spending so much of time? Or is there really a problem of neglect of hygiene or not eating food in time? So if there is no such issue, then why create a tension where there is no negative impact of the kind of screen time or smartphone use that your adolescent has? So it's a question of a screen time or media viewing plan for the family, and parent mediation must be should not be reactive. It must be proactive. And proactive means that you give ample time to discuss, to take interest in what they are watching, because ultimately it's a balance of a good relationship and good communication. And if your entire relationship is based only on censoring and monitoring, then it really is not a meaningful relationship, because there is no communication on proactive aspects of. So, engaging young children in a homebound situation and the challenges in establishing a routine, many examples of routine: keep time for play, keep time for paper pencil tasks, keep time for joint activities, for drawing. Just as our dear child is drawing so many of these lines and colors on screen, and this is wonderful, so keep doing it. And it is developing into a nice railway track here, as you can see. And this is the kind of journey that you can take your children through in the lockdown, if you really contribute to their creativity and their imagination. And this is how you help children cope with prolonged indoor environment, by by the use of play and movement and music and drawing and creativity and a little bit of paper pencil academic tasks, but also helping out at home. Small things that the child can do so that a day is spent meaningfully in all activities and all aspects of child development. How do you handle temper tantrums in young children? There is something known as the ABC paradigm: antecedent, behavior, and consequences. Why is this child throwing a tantrum? Is there some way in which you can take care of the antecedent? Is the antecedent because the child has no structure? Is the antecedent that there was no agreement on screen time? And if you take care of the antecedent, you will ensure that the temper tantrum does not take place. Your response to the tantrum must be one of reasonable diversion. You cannot be using punishment. And this is called as positive and effective parenting. Positive parenting is about communication, it's about joint activity, it's about encouragement, it's about opportunities. It is not about correction, as someone has underlined that. Thank you very much for underlining these. It's wonderful. And this is what is called as quality time. There are some of you who live in joint families, and there will be conflicting messages that please understand that it's not about creating a situation of conflict in the extended family, but you are the parents and it's up to you to provide the kind of primary parenting that very young children need some instruction, but they need not be pressured. And you cannot expect a lot from young children in a time where even some of the most intelligent adults are finding it difficult to handle the lockdown situation. So you must be reasonable and understand that sometimes irritability and tantrums are part of the unusual circumstance that we live in, and give them that much of latitude. उतनी तो छूट देनी चाहिए इनको कि जब हम खुद अ, इस परिस्थिति को जूझ रहे हैं और इस चुनौती को झेल रहे हैं, तो हम ये कैसे उम्मीद करें कि कोई 6 साल का या 5 साल का लड़का या लड़की है वो बड़े इत्मीनान से, सांत्वना से और बड़े ही सब्र के साथ इस सिचुएशन को डील कर लेगा? ये थोड़ा अनरीजनेबल है. So we must have reasonable expectations of ourselves, and please understand all of you are doing the best under the circumstances. No one is perfect. You're doing the best under the circumstances, but it's a question of developing in the new normal a new routine that whatever your work timing may be, even if you protect 15 minutes of time a day, and your child knows that it is exclusive protected time for them and they look forward to it, it'll be useful. And therefore, if there are more than one child in the family and they argue with each other or they compete, have a routine where 10 or 15 minutes is given to one child exclusively, and the other child, the other parent is handling, or the other child is given an activity. Another 10 or 15 minutes where you work with the other child, and another 10 or 15 minutes where you do a joint activity together, which is not outcome based, but it's process based. परिणाम पे ध्यान मत दीजिए, प्रक्रिया पे. और खेल, संगीत, नृत्य, घर पे ही पिकनिक मनाना, कुछ नया डिश तैयार करना, these are all things and manners by which you can handle sibling rivalry at home. So if you also understand that if you have a 6-year-old and you have a 13-year-old at home, this differential must be kept in mind, because a 13-year-old may not want to engage in the kind of activities a 6-year-old is doing that. So making that provision and that leeway, and to allow your 13-year-old and a young adolescent the kind of privacy and individuality that that child needs, and therefore the permission to be in touch with their peer group, uh, would go a long way. And if you approach your 13, your 14, and your 15-year-olds with respect, and and a respect of their agency and mastery, कि तुम्हारी राय चाहिए, तुम इस परिवार के एक बहुत ही मुख्य और माननीय सदस्य हो, and we look forward to your participation, it elevates their status in a way that they also participate in what is happening at home. Coming back to the whole issue of special needs children, we know that there's a lack of access to therapy, special schools are closed down. So continuity of care हम किस तरीके से maintain करेंगे? And this is where home-based interventions are very important. And if you look at the importance of physical activities for physical interventions, that whether they are hand functions or whether they are just, some form of exercise, or, just walking in and around the house, or eye-hand activities, speech-related activities, by having conversations with your children, and also contributing to their cognitive development by doing puzzles and games, um, asking them to shoot movies on the phone, and and watching that, so that they learn characters and dialogue and scripts. This is the way that you continue to maintain home-based interventions. It is very important, dear parents, to manage your work-life balance during COVID. And since you're working and looking after the children at home, there will be a certain degree of parental role strain, and you must keep time for yourselves and for your marital relationship also, otherwise it generates negative emotions in you. So that 15 minutes, which is your personal time, it has nothing to do with your partner, it has nothing to do with your children, and it has nothing to do with household chores. ये आपका व्यक्तिगत आपके लिए समय है, और ये बैटरी रिचार्ज करने के लिए बहुत ही आवश्यक है, चाहे 15 मिनट ही हो. Similarly, 15 minutes for the partners together. It goes a long way in unusual times like this to maintain the kind of balance that we are talking about. There are some concerns, like I said earlier, about screen time, और इसका मैंने काफी जिक्र किया है. Please do not use screen time as a pacifier. Often people have asked, if my child does not eat unless I give him the smartphone, I put on the YouTube. But then you set that pattern. Even dysfunctional families have patterns, and it's very important to see that you use your own conversations or storytelling, uh, maybe a picture book, and you're telling a story rather than screen time. There is always the concern that are age appropriate activities there on screen or not, particularly where online and virtual learning has come. How do we keep family time intact there? And this is where your knowledge regarding professional recommendations for preschoolers, how much of screen time for 9 to 10 years old, perhaps 3 to 4 hours of screen time, which include learning as well as entertainment. And for 13, 14-year-olds, perhaps they'd like to keep in touch with their friends, and and send WhatsApp and do WhatsApp videos, but they do online learning. And how much of privacy, how much of and you cannot be intruding on their lives. As long as you have an open channel of communication and they are participating in home activities, this will go a long way in allaying your anxieties. You must understand adolescence, Kishore Avastha mein.
Samita, Sumana, Samita.
I request the participants to kindly be muted.
Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you. Uh, we are getting almost a glimpse into the individual lives of people and the scribbles and the concerns about tomorrow's breakfast. This is wonderful. It's almost like we are there in people's lives and home. Thank you, Sushmita, for the red line, underlining understanding adolescence in red. I entirely agree with you that it needs to be uh, to be underscored. Uh, One of the biggest problems with adult-child relationships is that parents fail to re-establish adult relationships with their children when their children grow up. So you could be 50 years old, you're getting your 25-year-old daughter married, but to your 75-year-old father, you're still an idiot. There is no such thing as adult children. They are adults. You're a child only under the age of 18. After that, you're an adult. Right? And we really need to have adult relationships with our children when they grow up. So, this is roughly a framework that we need to keep in mind in terms of some basic principles of parenting, the emphasis on routine, re-establishing new routines, the emphasis on creative and imaginative stimulation, the emphasis on a little more effort for children with special needs, the emphasis on maintaining channels of communication, particularly with adolescents, the emphasis on an agreement about time management and structure, how much of screen time is permissible, keeping time for your own well being and your own relationships and hobbies, and some simple ways of dealing with challenging behaviors. This, friends, is really the framework of what I wanted to share with you today. And I'm very grateful for Thangadurai Saab for having given me this opportunity as part of the TD Trust and Lata, the other trustee, who so ably manage these webinars and their generosity in actually opening out these sessions for teachers and for parents so that in this unusual situation that we are in, we share as many of our thoughts and ideas and professional experience to make your lives that much more meaningful and evocative and useful. My grateful thanks also to Khushbu for her very graceful introduction to this session and conducting of this session. We have about 20-25 minutes at our disposal. I'm happy to take questions now. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
I request someone to break the ice. Let's start.
I see a question, Thangadurai Saab, on chat from Deepa Murthy. And the question is, please tell us the impact on kids of their screen time. Um, Let me put Deepaji's question in perspective. The issue, there's the issue of screen time and there is the issue of screen content. As I had said, for preschoolers, 654, the screen time that is recommended, American Psychological Association, JAMA Pediatrics, the Health Ministry, is about 1 to 2 hours, and that too not continuously. For 6 to 9-year-olds, perhaps 2 to 3 hours. For 9 to 13-year-olds, 3 hours plus. And 14, 15, 16-year-olds, perhaps 4 to 5 hours there. But that screen time must be a combination of both entertainment, social interactions, and academics. It cannot be exclusively entertainment there. The second issue is content. Now, how do we keep track of, so some content for young children, you're there and you're observing it, so you know, but for adolescents, the kind of content that they access and, what kind of parent mediation is required. It's a question of how open your relationship is. And, if a kid were to come to you and say, I saw this content, oh my God, what are you saying? Is your reaction of that nature? Or do you say, yes, sometimes this kind of inappropriate content is there. Let's discuss it. So the message that must go is, I'm open to any discussion. You're not saying I'm open to any behavior. You can see whatever you want. But you're saying I'm open to any discussion. So that's the kind of message, Deepaji, that there's a question from Swati Mahajan, how to discipline kids without punishing them. Let me address this, Swati, in the following way. Do children need discipline? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps, I don't know. Yes, sure they do. But everybody needs discipline. Why only children? Do children need disciplining? Should the disciplining be by punishment? Should the punishment be corporal? Shanta Sinha, the first chairperson of the National Commission of Protection of Child Rights, said in the 4th Zakir Hussain Memorial Lecture, she does not like the word disciplining, she would rather use the word positive engagement. And there is positive engagement means that if there is a problem behavior on the part of the child, there is no need to punish them. You have a discussion with the child. And I'll give you an example. Let's take the example of a school and one child hits another child. One child hits another child. One response of the teacher could be that you hit the child who hit the other child. Now, corporal punishment is banned in schools. Second response is to say, दोबारा किया ना ऐसी धुलाई करूंगा कि जीवन भर याद रखेगा. Third response is to say, गंदे लड़के ऐसा करते हैं. Fourth response is to say in anger, क्यों किया ऐसा? But the fifth response is to say, क्या हुआ? हमें आके बताओ ताकि हम समझें कि बात क्या हुई, ताकि आगे ऐसी कोई बात हो उसको अच्छे तरीके से हम सुलझा सकते हैं. See the difference. You're still addressing the issue, but you're addressing it from positive engagement and not really from the perspective of punishing them. Pankaja, Harish, how to decide how many activities is okay for a kid, as in drawing class, music, yoga, abacus, and so on? Well, Pankaja, day has only 24 hours. And, we must understand that there are some children who have a penchant for, they have prodigious talent and they're actually learning music. So they'll have to do their riyaz and their sadhana for quite some time. So, that leeway needs to be given for those who have special talents or special interests. But for an average child, it is actually a judicious, mix of, particularly when they are at home, they need 8 hours of sleep. They need another 2 hours for routine activities like bathing, brushing, and so on. Another 1 or 2 hours for social activities, 1 or 2 hours for leisure, 1 or 2 hours for doing nothing. And in the remaining 8 to 10 hours, you divide it, but you divide it with discussion with the child. How much on study, how much on entertainment and leisure, how much on play, how much on hobbies, how much on drawing, how much on music. And it's not a routine that is carved in stone, that it has to be at that time. There has to be some flexibility and some variation, otherwise it gets boring. You can't be singing the same song every day from 2:15 to 2:45. There must be some variation. So that's how you kind of handle it.
Good evening, sir.
Yep.
My name is Sudha Murthy, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to ask one very funny question, which I am dealing every day with my students online.
Yep.
Especially I take 10th, 11th, 12th. Mm-hmm. And I see that whenever I am asking certain questions, pointing out to the child who is not talking to me on the daily basis, every time the child's mic doesn't work, camera doesn't work. And I say, okay, I believe in them and I trust them. I say, okay, but is this trusting every time when a child is giving a false or not a correct reason? How do I deal with that?
As a teacher or as a parent?
As a teacher, sir.
I have no ready or definite answer or response to this, but I can give you a framework of response. Whenever we work with children individually or in groups, there is intent, content, methodology, process, and meta process. Intent. In that session, what is my intent? What do I want the child to learn? Content, in that subject, in that portion, how much of content do I want to give? Methodology, now it's online. Now, what happens with a lot of online is that, people will show a PowerPoint. So how do we animate the session in such a way that even this kid who you suspected, and a relationship cannot be based on mistrust, that you have to. So many of us have to learn new methods of actually engaging. We have to become actors. Learn to really work with the camera in a way that we animate the session and draw their attention, and also that it's not a one-way conversation. And see, learning, ma'am, is social. And what the digital media does is that it removes the social immediacy, the physical presence of the teacher. So how do you create that sense of immediacy and contact and engage the child, and how do you ensure that the sessions are participatory, and over a period of time you set a culture going that it's not just about you speaking, it's about their responding as well. And then you get them to process. So if it's a 1 hour session, you can't be delivering content for 15 minutes. You must deliver content for maybe 15 minutes and allow the rest of the time to say, what did you think about it? Do you have any ideas? And then when you meta process, it means, what did we learn from today's sessions? How will you apply it? This way you ensure, if there are 30 or 40, that you get to hear at least a couple of voices. And over a period of time, whether he's attentive, he's there throughout or not, when he knows that you're interested, you're drawing him in. So that's the kind of response, ma'am, that I have to your question. So
Thank you, sir.
thank you, you're welcome. Then I go to something that Mallikarjun has put when kids, kids don't um, listen to get into studies. How do we handle them with good words and make them study in the pandemic situation? Mallikarjun, it's a democratic decision. It is just don't talk about studies. Talk about time management. You have to go one step back. Let the agenda of discussion not be on studies, that you're not studying, uh, let the agenda be of time management, and how much of time that. And over a period of time, you will find that they know that you're not insisting only on studying, but that you're getting them to manage time in a manner that there is time for leisure, there is time for conversation with friends, there is time to do fun stuff, there is time to help out in the home, and there is time to study, and that too not continuously. Because sitting in home continuously like you used to do for 6 or 8 hours in school is not possible. So you'll have to find a new ritual or a new routine, a new way to do this time management at home that's inspirational and exciting for children. So that's how I would handle it. Rajni's question is, what is the ideal time for involving special kids in activities, and for how long? Rajni, it depends on the age of the child, the severity of the challenge. If the child is in a good mood, or is the child sleepy, um, is the child motivated? So it's a question really of putting all these parameters together. So preferably during awake times, not in and around meal times, not when the child is tired or sleepy or cranky or hungry. That's not a good time. And so if you look at times where they are alert, they are not hungry, they are fed, they are in a good mood, they are not cranky, and they are receptive. And you start experimentally and see how it goes, and you'll be able to form a pattern that over these days, these are the times where it becomes the child is most receptive, and that can occur by trial and error. So it's not that this is the time to do it, because for some children, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning may work. For others, it's 11 o'clock that works. So there's no need to be bound into these kind of um, Tasleem's question is: it's difficult to keep kids away from social media and video games. How can we how can we control this? My response.
Shekhar sir, I request you to kindly unmute yourselves.
Thank you. So Tasleem's question is difficult to keep away from social media and video games. How can we control this? My response to that, Tasleem, is why do you want to control it? What is the problem? Is it that you feel they're having gaming addiction? Is it that in social media they're doing sourcing inappropriate stuff? Please remember what I said. If they are otherwise attending to their roles and responsibilities, they are completing their work, why create an issue where there is no issue? On the other hand, if he's doing gaming for 12 hours continuously, is irritable, if you ask to do anything else, he's yelling and shouting, then we have a problem. But if that is not the issue, don't create an issue where there is none. If there is an issue, it depends on how severe it is. At a mild level, it's a question of a discussion that, I'm not saying don't use social media, video games. Let's agree on a certain time so that we would like your contribution to the family. We'd like you to do other stuff also. I'm not saying you should not be in social media or not do video gaming at all. That's not what I'm saying. But let's agree on a particular time that this is taking place. Srinidhi's question is: we see.
Can I just ask a question with the relevant point only? You have pointed the behavioral issues of the children here. What about the biological or medical issues? We read so much about radiations, of the bad effects of radiation on children. So, how much true is that?
It has not been scientifically demonstrated in all entirety.
Okay.
I've gone through a lot of literature and the scientific validity that it actually affects development or learning capacities, or that it causes irreversible neuronal or brain damage, has not been incontrovertibly established. This does not mean to say that since it has not been established, you can keep on, because there are other issues, other medical issues. Obesity is one. Obesity has gone up since the whole media boom took place. Short sight has also gone up substantially. So there are these. So lifestyle problems. So the concern is not so much about radiation. The concern is about lifestyle. The concern is about time management. The concern is about life skills. It's about sedentary lifestyle. So those are the kind of issues that we really need to keep in mind.
Right. So as you said, 2 to 3 hours of screen time for 6 to 9 years.
For preschoolers.
What about 6 to 9 years of children?
A little more than that, 3.5 hours, 9 to 12, 3 hours plus, and then 14, 15, 16, they can go like 4 to 6 hours, 8 hours, but not 8 hours of only one kind of activity.
Yeah, the complete paradigm of activity.
Yeah, it is digital for social contact. It is digital for learning. It's for entertainment. So there's a division that.
Correct. So as long as we are, within these time range, we are on the safe side.
Right. So
Thank you.
I also wanted to say, Khushbu, that you will have to curate the questions on chat because there are over 20 of them, and
Definitely.
and it's already 7:24, and I believe we wind up at 7:30.
Yes, sir. So one of the questions which I read by Miss Jennifer Lata is that does divorce of parents affect the child? So does that affect the child, and does the child start lying about certain things, or uh, that is the question, sir?
Any,
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir,
yeah,
sir, I'm only Jennifer Lata.
yeah,
Sir,
sure.
I just wanted to just to know because it is not about how they behave, but I have come across children who take so much of advantage of the situations that their parents are separated. They put the blame on the parents, saying that it is because of you I have gone into it. Is it something related to psychology, sir?
Everything is
School
related.
also, I have observed certain children like this.
Everything is related to psychology, but to hold a child in some ways responsible, that in a cognizant way he or she is using the truth. I mean, if you're saying the parents are actually not divorced, they are very happy, but the child is lying that they are divorced, that's a different issue. But even see, I don't like the use of the word stealing and lying because they are pejorative. Children say
Correct,
things
sir.
which are not correct. Children take things which don't belong to them for reasons of insecurity, need. There are many reasons that, no child is born bad. There is no such thing as a born criminal. Y-
Yes, sir.
it is circumstances that. So, if it is true that there is parental discord leading to divorce, any kind of separation does affect people. Does it mean it has to affect them for a lifetime? Not necessarily. It depends on how it is contextualized for a child. It is the custodial parent saying that we couldn't get along. It has nothing to do with you. And unless the non-custodial parent was very violent towards the child, but if that was not the case, it was only the parents who didn't get along well together. The child has every right to be in touch with the non-custodial parent as well. So how do you contextualize it for a child is exceedingly important. And but particularly there are bitter custody battles, and there is parent alienation syndrome, and the child is in a dilemma and is asked to take sides and all that. Then it does become a psychological issue that. So there are all kinds of dimensions to parental discord, parental separation, and parental divorce, including custody issues, visitation issues, whether the non-custodial parent is abusive or he's a nice person, but there was just some marital issues. So Srinidhi has put a question about physical reduction. I already engaged that, and you can engage them in physical activities. We have a whole lot of yoga modules which are there on site, and it sort of keeps the stuff going. It need not necessarily be walking. Well, as far as schools and the digital thing is concerned, NCERT has come up with a whole online recommendation, not just which platforms to use, but they have a major annexure on well-being and mental health and monitoring and safety and so on. But different school boards and different schools are taking their own decisions about when schools will open. There is no roadmap on exactly how best, but I think availability to adolescents, availability to talk, to converse, to listen to their concerns and dilemmas would be exceedingly important. So, and thank you very much, everyone who have put very affirming comments about how informative the session was. Um, Abhishek, I'm retiring in 1 year, and I have, as Thangadurai Saab pointed out, I have started this major national initiative and integrated resource on child protection, mental health, and psychosocial care. The YouTube channel of which I have put on chat. Please do subscribe to it and pass it on. This is all free access meant for parents, for teachers, for child care service providers and stakeholders. So, but we do online work, and my department, all that is available on the NIMHANS website, so you can please go through it. And Aubrey says discipline is the moral awareness of a child that should be drawn out through realization and understanding. Yes, I like the word realization and understanding, but I would add to that the whole issue of positive engagement and the culture of conversations. We've spoken about reduction of screen time. Uh, is discipline an act of love? Yudhishthir, what? Yes, it is. And love is a decision. You know, when you decide to love unconditionally, then the issue of discipline does not even come in that. What a lovely thought. Is love an act? Is discipline an act of love? Yes, and love is a decision. A 13-year-old who gets angry and irritated easily, could you please advise how to take him? Very important here. Anger is an emotion. Let's understand there is context, there is experience, there is inner voice, there is emotion, there is behavior. Irritability, aggression is a behavior, anger is the emotion. But what is the context in which it is occurring? And that's very critical to understand. And what is the child processing that? If the child is faced with some unfair decision and he's angry and then he's acting out, are we to deal with his anger, or are we to deal with the context and the experience that the child has undergone? So when we do counseling, Veena, we always try to understand what the source of this boy's anger and irritability is. And we say that anger by itself is not right or wrong. We all get angry at some point of time. Let's understand the reason why you got angry and see what we can do to mitigate that circumstance, and see, whether you would like to control your anger, and do you think anger is good, and under what circumstances. And so that's how we go about. Salma, we gauge the underlying emotions of a child by conversation and by our willingness to listen. Sure, they may not present facts to begin with, but we need to give time, because it takes time for people to trust. And right, s- there are tons of stuff that have come. I have a suggestion, Thangadurai Sahab
Yes.
and Khushbu. Perhaps you could save all the things that came on chat, and if you could send it to me, I would be happy to do a content and a theme analysis of that, and we could get back on another session where I present to you all the stuff that has been put on chat. Starting from what Tomali Baniksen has said, and Sayed Zahid and Aditi Chandavar and Sunita and Abhishek Divedi and Beena Rupak and Loretta Coelho and Kirti from her iPhone and Lakshmi Kannan and Amrit Blanche and someone called Hrithik Roshan, would you believe? Uh, but spelt Hritwik. It's a nice way of spelling. And Priyanka Lalwani, and then Abhishek Divedi again. And so, if you could put these questions and save them and send it to me, I would be happy to do a thematic analysis, and we could have another session
Oh, so nice of you. So nice.
From TD Trust and take this forward. It'll maintain a continuity of dialogue as well.
Very nice of you. In fact,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Sir, can I interrupt you again? I'm so sorry, but for very very specific issue, can we have like a professional
Can you off the TV if you're not watching?
please? For some very very specific issues.
Your resources there on mobile.
I would request the participant to kindly unmute themselves, and also Shekhar sir, if you could unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Yes. Can I continue?
sure.
Yeah. So, sir, for some very very specific issues, can we seek a professional counseling review, maybe a few sessions?
I would be happy to set it up. I may not be able to deliver it personally because of the nature of this project I'm involved in because I'm doing 14-hour days of training across the country.
Okay.
But I have a huge team. I'm happy to set it up.
Yeah, great, sir. So could you just any email ID or any contact info on which we should contact you or somebody from the team?
The the site that I have sent you, I've sent the website in which the email ID and everything is present.
Okay.
Yeah, you could just mark it for my attention, and I will arrange for the necessary assistance to be provided.
Okay. Okay. So the website link which you have sent in initially.
It has my contacts and email ID. Yes.
Great, great, great. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. The session was very useful and an eye opener. Thank you, sir.
Uh, Thangadurai sir, you're muted. Kindly unmute yourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar, so for giving such a long hours of deliberation and interesting suggestions for parenting during the pandemic situation. And so nice of you to say that you can also come back, and we will definitely pass on this feedback and that is there on the chat box. And I would say this webinar on parenting is a work in progress. We will continue on this. And I'm sure that whenever you pass on certain a link regarding your parenting Pathshala, I would share it with, of course, our parents, and also probably with the kind of a data I have about the parents, I would like to share it. Because our Lata Mishra's objective of running this TD Educational Trust is, as I said, is a kind of a support and mentoring um, for the teachers and as well as the parents, because they are also our stakeholders. So thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar Sheshadri. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you very much, Tanga. I'm very, very grateful, and I'm happy to be of any assistance at any time.
Thank you.
Festival greetings, everyone, for Deepavali and for Children's Day. Be safe and in good cheer, and let's work together for children, for parents, and to look at this pandemic with new resilience. On behalf,
yeah.
On behalf of TD Trust, all the best. Over to you, Tanga.
Thank you, so nice of you. We also have a virtual Children's Day program tomorrow, and I think every school is gone on to the online, conducting all the events, and that's where somewhere we are all engaging, but then again, what's happening on the other side is something that we will address in the course of this series, both for the parents and also for the teachers. So thank you all, and particularly all the participants for staying with us for such a long time. There were nearly 250 participants who were with us, and then we were also live on the YouTube. And I request Khushbu, a wonderful host as always, to conclude the session. Thank you, Khushbu. Thank you, Lata.
Thank you so much, sir. And to Dr. Shekhar, sir, बहुत ही बढ़िया session था. It was very wonderful. I learned a lot of things, and I'm sure our participants also understood the various aspects that are needed during these times, because everybody was, I think, in a state of confusion after this pandemic. But yes, your guidance and your support and your illustrations were wonderful, sir. And
Thank you.
thank you for gracing us with your presence today and accepting our invite. And thank you so much, Thanga sir, for this opportunity and for this platform. Thank you, Lata ma'am. And definitely thanks to each and every participant who has joined us today. And I'm sure you've taken something positive back home. Festival greetings to each one. Happy Children's Day to all the children who are viewing this. and a happy Deepavali and a prosperous one to each one of you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
So I'll close the meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.